Welcome back to ABC of Storytelling 2.0. My name is Rituparna Ghosh, and every week I share tips, tricks, techniques, and secrets from my story bag, helping you tell better stories in your business, in your life, and in your work. ABC of Storytelling 2.0 started off as a social learning experiment where I share some tips from my life and you implement them. And when they work, you come back and tell me what did they do for your business, for your life, or for your profession. So this is how we've been going. All of these tips and tricks have been tried. These have been tried by my clients and they have been tested over and over again. But how they work, you come and help me become a better enabler so that I can take out these valuable lessons and help other people tell better stories. We are on the letter T and we have 3 of them for you. So let's get started. How do I know what type of stories do I need to tell? Now that's a very common question that I get. Now, if I had to answer this question in this video, I would require an entire series on that because there are many types of stories that you should have in your story bag. But let's say no matter who you are, what kind of an audience do you work with, what format of stories that you tell, if I had to suggest some common stories or universal stories, here are top 3 of them that I would recommend that you have in your story bag. Number 1, the why story. Why do you do what you do is a story that everyone should have in their story bag. Your why is your motivation. Your why is your purpose. Your why defines why you are doing what you are doing and why are you committed to it. Your why can begin at one point of time and your why can evolve over a period of time. There could be many why stories to explain the why of what you do. So have a why story or work on your why story. Number 2, your origin story. Where do you come from and how has it shaped your why is a very important part or is a very important story that your audience would want to listen to. Your origin story holds the clues to where do you come from, what kind of a background do you have, what kind of a growing up did you have, and your why defines what shapes your personality. So your origin story. Number 2, the origin story. Where do you come from and how did that shape your why story? Everybody wants to know who you are because that builds your credibility, that builds your authority, that lets people know you from a little more than what they have already known you. So keep a couple of origin stories or your origin story or keep that origin story in different forms in your story bag so that you can use it in a particular situation where you need to tell people where did you pick up your why from. So your origin story is connected to your why. Number 3, your value story. Everyone, all of us, individuals as well as businesses, organizations, institutions, everybody has a value and our values may differ, our values may be conflicting, our values may also bring us together. The idea is to share your value story with people so that they understand you better, they connect the dot between your origin story and your why story. Now, for example, you could be someone who believes in the value of discipline. Well, what taught you the value of discipline is the story that you need to tell. It's not important just to say that I'm a very disciplined person and I like working with people who are disciplined. When you tell your value story, you clearly spell out who you are and why do you believe in that particular value. I could go on to talk about this type of stories that one should have in their story bag, and the type of stories depend on who you are, what do you do, what kind of an industry do you work in, who are your listeners, what do they expect out of you. But there are some stories which are common. So these are my top 3 universal stories that work for anyone and everyone should have these kind of stories. There are some stories which are static, which means that they don't change shape, they don't change form, they are what they are and they have to be told and retold in the same way. Some stories are more rounded, they develop, they change shape and form. You don't mix up facts, but the fact is that there are many ways or many perspectives to tell that particular type of story. What they are, if you are curious about knowing the types of stories that should be in your story bag, and if you're interested in knowing how to really use the power of storytelling to create a strategy, whether for your personal communication, for your personal branding, or your organizational branding, you can book a one-on-one discovery call with me. The link for that is in the description below. Never go out with a story if you have not tested it. Wait a minute, let me take that back. Let's say you are invited for an interview and you've gone with your steady set of stories that you think the interviewer would be interested in knowing. But your interviewer has asked you a question that instantly triggers a story, but you've never tested it with someone. Yes, I recommend that before you go out telling stories, and especially if you're working with stories for the first time, work on your set of stories, try them out, test them out with a particular audience so that you get different responses from them. But if you are in a situation where you have to respond to a question, and the first thing that comes to your mind is that I have a good story for that, would you dare to tell that story without having tested it? As someone who's done that many times, let me tell you that yes, it is perfectly fine to go ahead and tell your story, to try and test it. Well, before I go into that, let me also tell you about the fact that many filmmakers also have focus groups where they show their film to a certain audience to get their feedback, and they use that feedback to edit their film or to repackage their film so that they can take it out or release it in the theaters. Now you can do that with a certain kind of stories which require a lot of budgeting. For example, if you're making an ad film or you're doing a creative film for your organization. But if you had to tell a story through your blog, through your newsletter, in your speech, in your presentation, the best way to test it out is to share it with someone. But what do you do when you have not tested the story, which was my original question to you? This is what I do. I'm going to let you out a little secret. I begin a story, but I put a timeline to that story. I give my listener 1 minute. I wait and observe my listener while I'm telling that story to see my listener's body language, their listening intent, their attention, whether they are distracted at that point of time or that they're getting impatient. Sometimes if the interview has taken a long time, say for example 30 minutes or 40 minutes, there are chances that the interview is ready for another story, or the interviewer may be in a hurry to move to the next question or to end the conversation there. In that case, I watch and observe my listener. In fact, my test is of the listener. At that point of time, I begin a story, but I end it up very quickly, saying that, well, this is an entire story, we can keep it up for another day, but this is what you want to know and this is what it is. Choose the best stories that will help you connect and communicate with your listener. But test your audience, test your listener to see if they are ready for the story or not. If they are not, don't waste a story, don't waste your breath, and don't lose your mind thinking that my story did not work. Training. Storytelling can be learned. If you have been following ABC of Storytelling 2.0 till now, then there are chances that you've taught yourself to tell stories. Well, that was my hope, and I hope you have been able to do that. But if there's a little gap, I recommend you go ahead and seek training from a professional storyteller or from a coach who can help you sharpen the saw. Well, all of us can get fit by going for a run, for going for a walk, by lifting some weights, or watching our food. But if you want to stay consistent, if you want to stay motivated, and you want your fitness or your endeavor to show some results, you will have to go to a mentor, to a coach who's going to work on your mindset, who's going to help you get fitter every single day. A story coach pretty much works like that. A trainer works pretty much like that. As an organization, your story bag works with individuals and organizations, helping them learn storytelling skills. So ABC of Storytelling 2.0 is a freely available storytelling resource. You can treat it like a workshop. You can go through each video once again to learn storytelling bit by bit, one step at a time, one tip at a time. We've done this before and I know it works for a lot of people. So you can go through this, it's a free resource. But if you want to sharpen the saw, if you want to really make stories work for you, if you want to really sharpen your understanding, your strategy of how stories can really help you connect, communicate, and create value for your stakeholders, then come to us. We'd be happy to customize a training program for you or your organization. We'll be happy to customize a coaching program, a story coaching program for you or for your organizational members. So go ahead and write to me. All the link is in the description below. So that's all we have time for this week on ABC of Storytelling 2.0. Did you like this video? Did you like our tips and tricks and techniques and secrets? Are you finding it useful? Is it helping you tell better stories every day? Come back and write to me, share your comments, share your feedback, share this video with somebody who you think needs a bit of help, a bit of a push to try storytelling. And if you need something, if you want to give us some kind of a heads up into what kind of stories do you want to hear, we would love to work on that. If you would like us to listen to your stories, remember we are great listeners too. So come back and share your story with us. We need to know that this is working. So until the next letter, until the next video, happy storytelling.